There are fewer than 30 men in the world qualified to drive Formula One. A mere half dozen, perhaps, to win. At this moment, I'm inclined to think you're not one of them.
No, you want to. Keep up the good work, and there you have it. There you go. Welcome to F1Weekly.com. My name is Clark Rogers. I'm the host of the program. I'll be joined by Nasir Hamid, my co-host. This is podcast number 1067, October 31st, 2024. Nasir.
Thank you, sir. I say, gracias, amigo. Carlito does a max on Max. Norris calls his BFF dangerous. Gato with 9 lives has 400 Grand Prix appearances. Nordic flavor in the palatial studios. We shall explain. Muy gladly. Back to you, senor.
Thank you, Nasir. On today's program, the FIA admit to playing catch-up with Max Verstappen's penalties. All Spanish-speaking F1 drivers are pissed off at Liam Lawson. NASCAR's France family sends welcome hot dog basket to Max Verstappen. And this week's interviews are Scandinavian treat with Mika Häkkinen and Dennis Hauger. And yes, we do need to remind everybody that, yes, we do need your contributions. Keep this program on the air. Just click on the Support F1 Weekly tab. You know you want to. I want to thank Dan Wardman for his contribution. Gracias, muchacho Nas. I know you're pumped up with Carlito winning, Max losing, and Norris trying. Nas, welcome to the studio. How are you?
Man, what a Grand Prix. The beginning of the race was like the ending of Dijon-Prenois 1979. I think most of us knew who will be leading the race after turn 1. I knew there was DRS available, but Carlito turned into a raging Spanish bull against the Red Bull of Max. Very few are capable of giving Max a taste of his own medicine, but Dr. Sainz Jr. delivered it without any side effects, unlike Lando Norris. But best was yet to come. Max and Lando in close company is like moth to a flame. Someone will get burned. Most people have a to-do list on weekends. Max has only one item on his list. It is short and simple and is spelled W-I-N. He has to win every race, every corner, every lap. A modern-day Gilles Villeneuve. Obviously, very exciting for fans. And I am one of them. But like Senna and Schumacher before him, there is never a dull moment while Max is on the track. I think this is the hallmark of great champions. He is definitely one of them. With such a huge lead in the championship with only few races remaining, all Max has to do is follow Lando to claim his 4th successive championship. It reminds me of the 2007 season finale in Sao Paulo, where all LCH had to do was finish behind his teammate, who could that be, and become rookie world champion. And what an achievement that would have been, Mr. Rogers. But he tried to win the championship going into turn 1 of the opening lap and paid the price. I guess running behind the main challenger is not in the DNA of great champions. We have seen this movie before, twice at Suzuka and twice with Schumacher. But there are other cases also going back to the 60s. Senor, your thoughts on the opening laps before we do a quickie on Collie?
I totally agree. It was not only exciting, but As the British continue to complain, I'm telling you, without Max, it would be dull. It would be people following the rules, and when everybody's following the rules, what you get is boring racing, and I apologize to anybody who doesn't like that, but, that's why we have Schumachers, Sennas, PKs, and everybody else that went out there and pissed people off. So that's what we got. I admit that Max, I don't know, the FIA obviously had to catch up with penalties. I mean, when they said 20 seconds, I just went, wow, what happened to the 5-second intervals? But they wanted to make a point, and they certainly did that. On the other hand, the other big story is Perez. Incapable of getting out of Q1 in Mexico in front of his papa and family. So I thought that was really out there, and it shows you how crappy this car is. I think Perez is doing the best he can. Max just has a certain way with crappy vehicles and making him shine when he needs to shine. But no, this is going to get more exciting. Unfortunately, Max is going to start reeling back. And like you said, all he has to do is follow Norris. Forget the win, just get the points, and he's world champion again. So it's exciting. I'm glad we have people like Max. And of course, congratulations to El Machismo, 400th Grand Prix. Very disappointing with a DNF. Aston Martin continues to underperform while Haas is kicking ass. So it is a confusing year, but nevertheless, I can't wait for Brazil. Nasir?
Now we come to quickie on Collie. Things look doom and gloom for car number 33. But on the final lap, the driver pulled out a max performance to remove one of the Ferraris from the front row. Very, very impressive run, but I have to say, with a talent like Max, not surprising. This is expected from him. Carlito took his first pole position of the season and number 6 of his career, all with Ferrari. While Max was on the front row, his teammate, the local hombre, was 18th. Brembo gets the blame this time. Row 2 was Lando and Charles Leclerc. Both Haas cars made it in the top 10. Very good going for the little team from Charlotte, North Carolina. New man Ayo Komatsu is working out very well. And I wish the Komatsu heavy equipment manufacturer sponsorship, it was at Haas. So Komatsu car is sponsored by Komatsu. That would look pretty cool. Out in Q1 was Oscar Piastri and F1's new honey bunny from Buenos Aires, Franco Colapinto. A lot of people are not only asking for his autograph, but also for his phone number. He is in demand, and that's what happens when you hit the ground running in the Piranha Pool. Your man Fernando Alonso was 13th on the grid. Did that surprise you, or was it fait accompli? Your thoughts on Collie, sir?
Truly, truly shocking. I know Aston Martin is on the back foot about 14 times, but I don't see how this can be acceptable, except that, yes, they signed Adrian Newey. It's going to take a few years to get up to speed, but I am very disappointed with what they have provided with El Machismo. On the other hand, I was really shocked by Piastri not making out of Q1. There's traffic, there were issues, but that was very helpful for Lando Norris. And it shows that McLaren isn't perfect, so that made me feel better. And on the other hand, how is Haas doing so well? Obviously, the Ferrari power plant is one to talk about. And not only that, but I want to bring up karma and the timing of Lewis Hamilton moving over to Ferrari right when they become competitive once again. LCH and the planets are one.
Okay, let's talk about the race. Even though Carlos Sainz Jr. took a great win, he is suffering from the Jean-Pierre Jabouille syndrome. all the talk is about what happened behind the race winner. Carlito had a win earlier in the season in Australia. Like he said before the race, he wanted to get off the prancing horse with another victory before he is replaced by John Elkann's new love child, LCH. Carlito was strong all weekend. Max grabbing the lead going into turn 1 was no surprise, but the pressure put on Max by Carlito was very impressive, and so was the pass to retake the lead on lap 9. Max had no answer, and that is very, very rare. When Carlito complained on the team radio that Leclerc was too close for comfort, I was surprised because Scuderia have already served him, "Your services are no longer required" notice, and I was getting ready for a Maranello civil war in Mexico. How about you, Mr. Rogers? Were you expecting back-to-back wins for Leclerc?
I guess I was, because he looked so good in the United States, but Carlito's pumped up. He wants to make a point. He is still not, it's hard for everybody to believe that this young man who's driving at the best in his lifetime is leaving Ferrari because they're replacing him with an old man from the sea. No, that was a Freudian slip. It's not Fernando, it's LCH, but still. It's quite shocking. I feel bad. And not only that, but for him to go to Williams, who are struggling, who can't even keep up with Haas, I hope they provide him with a good car next year, because we'd like to see Carlito back on the podium in a different uniform. But I think it's going to be a tough struggle for Carlito. So get the wins while you can. Get the purse while you can. Run, run, run.
Carlito's only pit stop came on lap 33. This is the first time he has won more than one race in a season. And this is first Ferrari win in Mexico since 1990 with Alain Prost, and win number 248 for Scuderia since they first appeared in F1 at the 1950 Monaco Grand Prix. And I shall never forget that when Mario Andretti took his final Grand Prix win at the 1978 Dutch Grand Prix, the big news was Lotus has now tied Ferrari with number of Grand Prix wins. And Lotus is gone and Ferrari is still marching on. Mr. Rogers, will you accept Sainz Jr. as the new muy macho hombre de España?
I can. I will accept it. Sure. Why not? Because Fernando, 400 Grand Prix, early 40s. We know the end is near. Mark Martin made it to the 50s, but I don't think that's going to happen here. And it's going to be interesting, the final season of Fernando and Lewis Hamilton. Maybe if they could retire together, holding hands and sitting in their prospective camping chairs.
Second in the race was Lando Norris. He came in the way of a back-to-back Ferrari 1-2. But the spotlight was on his battle with soon to be his ex-BFF. And I hope it doesn't work out that way. On the team radio he said, "This guy is dangerous." After the race he said, and I quote, "I go into every race expecting a tough battle with Max. It's clear that it doesn't matter if he wins or second. His only job is to beat me in the race, and he'll sacrifice himself to do that, like he did today." End quote. Whose side is Clark Rogers on, Max or Lando?
Well, I'm on the exciting side. I want to see rule breakers dominate in Formula One because it's more fun, it's more exciting. And I've never liked McLaren. This whole podcast comes about because of what happened in 2005 and 6. So, there you have it, Nasir. But I don't know. It's still going to be a great ending to the season as long as Max doesn't stop. And I don't think he can. It's in his DNA. There's just no way he likes to let people pass. So we've got a bunch more races to go. It's going to be a wonderful finale in your favorite place, Abu Dhabi. And I heard that Massey has purchased tickets.
Lando has 3 wins this season. Winning the championship is still a long shot, unless Max has an engine kablamo and Piastri mysteriously slides into him, taking car number 33 to the kitty litter. But we don't want to see the championship won this way. Third was Leclerc, winner of the previous round in Austin. He was lucky not to go into the barriers. In the last 7 races, he has been on the podium in 6 of them. Only exception was Singapore, where he finished 5th. The Reds are rising, 5 wins this season so far. Guess who's coming to dinner at the end of the season party in Yas Marina? I'll give a hint. It's not Sidney Poitier, but a man very hungry for what was taken from him in 2021 at the same place. I say it's time for a boomerang championship. And when LCH gets number 8, he can send a radio message to Mercedes team principal saying, Toto, it's called a world championship. LCH was 4th in Mexico after a lively but clean on-track battle with his teammate, George Russell. Showing how fast the Mercedes star has faded, the once almighty LCH was almost 45 seconds behind Sainz Jr. at the end of the race. Max was 6th after serving a double dose of 10-second penalty during his pit stop. He called the first one impressive. Later, he blamed the lack of pace on his Red Bull as the reason for his aggressive driving. He is driving for a team which had no issue or delay in throwing Renault under a bus after winning 4 championships in a row with them. And Max is also the hombre who refused to help his teammate to finish 2nd in the championship behind him, so nothing surprises me. My memory, however, is redirected to a similar, actually much worse situation faced by Michael Schumacher when his Bridgestone tires were no match for Michelin. Some of us will remember his only comment was, "We win together, we lose together." Such words do not exist in the Jos the Boss doctrine of dominance, which he has carefully and very successfully crafted for his son. The question I have for you, Mr. Roger, is how aggressive would Max be in the remaining 4 races if his lead was less than 10 points? Especially given the pace advantage of the papaya cars over his Red Bull. What say you?
We'll see. I mean, he knows that now the FIA will penalize heavily, and he's going to be their favorite son to please all the British. But, I mean, everybody said it, trying to drive a little cleaner, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's going to be exciting. I don't think he can help it, like I said. If we remember, his father had a temper. Max has a temper. The apple didn't fall too far from the tree. It's going to be interesting. I do believe maybe a little anger management on the side might help. But we're in for excitement all the way to the end because there's going to be some more wins by McLaren, and there will be some catching up. So I'm looking forward to it. We've got an exciting season.
Moving on, both Haas cars were in the top 10 in quali and also in the race. K-Mag was 7th and Hülkenberg 9th, with Piastri in between them in 8th. With money from MoneyGram and technical help and more money from Toyota, I will not be surprised if they start appearing in top 5 on a Sunday afternoon next year. With young man Ollie Behrman and Esteban, I have no friends Ocon as drivers in 2025. Remains to be seen how many times they will find each other on the opening few laps. Tigers, whether they are from Bengal or Brittany, do not change their stripes. Mr. Rogers, how do you see this Anglo-French battle brewing at Haas F1 next year?
I think Ocon will be calm, cool, and collected at the beginning of his career at Haas, but it's not going to last, especially if Oliver Behrman challenges him. And I think we'll have a similar situation like we had with Hülkenberg and him at Force India. So, hey, more exciting for us, right?
Pierre Gasly picked up the final point from his 10th place finish. Both he and Hülkenberg were a lap down at the finish. And there was some exciting battle. There was argy-bargy between Sergio Perez and Liam Lawson. Liam showed him a Kiwi bird, for which he has now said, "I'm sorry, so sorry." But what can I say about Checo Perez? Poor guy crashed out on his own before he could make turn one last year. This year also a complete disaster. And there is no doubt that Red Bull may drop him, not in 2025, but before the 2024 season is over. And I just read very late today that AT&T is working to do a big sponsorship with Red Bull. And of course, the other sponsor backer for Checo is Telmex, the communications company. So you can't have two tigers in one cage. So if Checo goes, so will they. So a lot of things are going on. It has been a very, very crazy season. And I think we're going to have more surprises before we reach Yas Marina. Senor, your ultima palabras on the race.
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, if Red Bull can't get or convince Checo to perform in front of his own people in his home country at the Grand Prix de Mexico, then obviously there is no hope. He needs to be replaced. It's obvious. Who he gets replaced with, it's interesting. Colapinto is in the mix maybe for next year. Could we see Ricciardo come back to replace Perez? Is there a young gun waiting to pounce? I don't know, but I don't think it's Liam Lawson. He's making a lot of enemies in the Spanish-speaking community, so we'll see what's going to happen. But Perez is definitely out, especially with AT&T coming in. There's going to be some big changes, and I feel bad because Mexico is a great, great Grand Prix, and maybe we'll see IndyCar in Mexico pretty soon. Pat O'Ward was over there pitching his Mexican heritage, so it's going to be interesting.
Moving on, back in the day, Forrest Sawyer used to say on telly, as we open the justice files, today we will open the Fernando Alonso file. He gets the Dos Equis Award as the most interesting man in the world and the Jimi Hendrix Award for the most experienced driver in Formula One. 400 appearances on race weekend is absolutely incredible. He has actually raced in 397 Grand Prix races at this time. When he came into Formula One in 2001, in the same race as Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Pablo Montoya, the most experienced driver at that time was Riccardo Patrese with 256 Grand Prix starts. The victory in the San Marino Grand Prix in 2005 against King of the Hill, Michael Schumacher, and victory in Valencia starting from outside the top 10 when he was a Ferrari driver will always remain in the minds and hearts of Formula One aficionados. When Alonso won championship number 2, Lewis Hamilton was in GP2 with a real GP2 engine, and Max Verstappen was a 9-year-old karting hustler. Today, Alonso is still stuck on 2 championships, while his one-time teammate LCH has 7 titles, and Max is on his way to his 4th title. Somewhere along the way, Alonso's flight of Formula One fantasy got hijacked to Cuba. Sad part is, he did not even get a Havana cigar. But in 2005 and 2006, he did smoke the competition, including the Red Baron, with Mile 7 cigarette sponsorship. And that was absolutely incredible. The new and improved and championship-winning GP2 engine is coming to his present team, Aston Martin, in 2026. And aerodynamics ace is also headed to Aston Martin next season. Will Fernando Alonso ever win race number 33 and championship number 3? Only time will tell. The second seat is permanently reserved at Aston Martin. They say you sleep in the bed you make. Alonso made a futon in his second spell at McLaren Honda. Given his luck or lack of, this may turn into a comfortable sofa for Max in 2026. He will be totally peaches and herb, reunited and feel so good with Adrian Newey and Honda. Mr. Rogers, let's just say Alonso does 400 races, incredible achievement. You are his number one fan. Let's hear some remembrances, accolades for your Dios.
Well, yes, phenomenal drives his entire career. Ask Lewis, it's not fun passing Fernando, especially in Sao Paulo. No, phenomenal driver of the ages, just bad karma. And Ron Dennis wanted to play a few games in 2007. Oh, let's have a few laughs. And that's what happened. Bad karma, bad luck, and then the Honda disaster at McLaren. His timing is atrocious. It's going to continue. Aston Martin will never have enough time to give him a championship-winning car. Believe it or not, Lance Stroll has a better chance of becoming world champion than Fernando getting his third championship. It's over, but the entertainment was fantastic. He will forever be the best Formula One driver in my mind in the globe. And that's just the way it is. I am so grateful that I've been alive during his tenure and I've seen what he's done. But once again, timing and the planets and karma and everything else has a lot to do with everything. Ask any Formula One driver that's driven in the back. I'm telling you, getting a top team is much harder than you think, but some people just have better luck. Yep, that's right. Lady Luck.
Now we come to show me the money. An investment group has done that and invested about $130 million in Williams' F1 team. Purchase of the team started by Frank Williams and Patrick Head by New York-based Doralton Investment Group has been very good for its survival and hopefully success in the near future. As they say on Wall Street, people who have millions and millions of dollars hang out with people who have a similar bank balance. They tend to party in Monte Carlo in Monaco, not Manteca in California. And Mr. Rogers, since you live in that area, have you ever seen Bill Gates hanging out at the Gilroy Garlic Festival?
You know, I have to admit, I did look around for Bill just to ask him to click on the Support F1 Weekly tab. You know you want to, but you're right. He was nowhere to be seen.
More money matters. Formula One is the new favorite destination for corporate America, a match made in Liberty Heaven. Oracle, Salesforce, HP, Dell, Visa, and don't leave home without it, American Express, the preferred card for the all-important F1 customer base, the mighty 1%. Formula One and American Express have extended their sponsorship agreement. It is now going beyond the Americas onto the global stage, which means don't leave your casa or chalet without it. Through this expanded sponsorship, F1 and American Express will continue to work together to create best-in-class fan experiences at select F1 Grand Prix throughout the year. And this is very much in evidence with all the selfie takers at a Grand Prix paddock these days. American Express card members will have access to a range of benefits and perks, including Amex pre-sale tickets, paddock club, and grandstand tickets at select races while supplies last. American Express will also host business customers and partners through certain hospitality offerings. And American Express have always been pretty big in these sporting tickets and stuff like that. Sir, before we go take a break and go into Mondial, shall we have a chat with a gentleman from Norway who is coming to race here in Indy next season, and his name is Dennis Hauger. So let's invite him into the Palatial Studios. And after that, we'll take our Mountain Dew break today. Okay, folks, I'm here at Barber Motorsports with one fast driver all the way from Norway. Dennis, welcome to F1 Weekly. How are you today?
I'm really good. Yeah, it was a fun day.
And how did the session go?
I mean, yeah, it was not the optimal day for us. We had a bit of an issue. I crashed in the morning. We got a few laps in, but main thing was the afternoon where the engine blew up, and just couldn't do the rest of the day. So didn't do too many laps, but I mean, there was good potential, and we got into it quite quickly. We were the fastest in the first run in the morning, so got into the pace quickly. So that was good, and just building it up day by day with the team.
Okay, this is your second test session. First session was at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What is your initial impression of American racing scene, circuits, fans, people, hot dogs and cheeseburgers?
No, it's really cool. I really enjoy the atmosphere. First of all, I think that stands out, the atmosphere and the people, and it's a bit different way the way they work compared to Europe, I think. But it's all about getting used to it. I think the car is really cool. Different, obviously, from F2, but it's a fun car with really cool old school tracks, I would say, a lot of them.
What's the main difference between Indy NXT car, which is a very good looking car, and the Formula 2 car, which you're very familiar with?
I mean, I think just overall, I think the F2 car has a bit more downforce. So naturally, I mean, yeah, we have a bit more wings and it's a bit more advanced on that sense. But overall, I think it's a fun car to drive with some good power, and it's moving a bit around. So it's just a bit different in that sense, how you're driving it and the driving style with the amount of downforce you have. But I'm enjoying it so far. It's fun to work with the team and get sort of started building up with that. And also all the tracks this year and next year will be new. So, getting up to speed quickly and feeling comfortable with the car is going to be important.
Speaking of new tracks, we have great tracks here like Laguna Seca in California, Road America in Wisconsin. When you go, and a talented driver like you go to a new track, how long it takes before you get comfortable with the track?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the track, I guess, but yeah, in the road course and here, we were the fastest in the first run of the morning, never being here before, so I guess we were up to speed quite quickly, but for me, it's still like building up the speed, and the margin is still there the potential is still there to improve and do a few things here and there. So for sure, it's still about building up the experience. That's an important thing, and I think we get up to speed quickly, which will be important going on to new tracks next year. But still, building it up with the team. Yeah.
Okay, there was a very famous song here in America called Hello Walls, and you will see those at oval tracks. How do you plan to prepare for oval races?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got one test at least on an oval. I don't know, one or two before we get on a race weekend. So at least I get a few laps in there. But yeah, that's going to be very different. Never even seen an oval before we went to Indy. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a new experience for sure. The way they race, especially, I think it's quite different on an oval. But yeah, it's going to be really cool to get on a race weekend for the first time there and see how it is.
Do you plan to employ a driver coach for oval races?
I mean, the team has a great coach with them that follows all the drivers. So I think, yeah, he'll be working with us closely on that, and hopefully I get some extra work done on that sense to prepare. Yeah.
Okay, with your race winning experience in Formula 2, you will be going against some second-year drivers. It's going to be challenging. I'm sure you want to win the championship. Who do you see as your main challengers?
I mean, it's still early days. At the moment, I'm just focusing on myself with the team and doing the job we can do. I think for sure, there's a few guys that have raced back in Europe as well. Colette, for example, is a good driver. I raced him in F3. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard to say at this stage. Some guys are usually quick at testing, and then they struggle more. You're going into the race weekends and the season starts. The pressure comes on. So, I mean, I'm just, open-minded, thinking ahead with the team, just doing day by day, test by test. And then, I'm sure we're already there. I mean, more or less, a few things to work on here and there. But, at the moment it's just working on ourselves.
During the 2025 season, do you plan to be based in the U.S. or will you be a frequent flyer on SAS from Oslo?
No, I think at the moment I will go back home
You will?
in the New Year and Christmas, of course, with the family. But once we get going with testing and stuff here, I'm thinking about renting a place and moving over here when the season starts. I think it's going to be a too long flight for me going back and forward.
If I may ask, most drivers are based in Indianapolis. Is that what you plan to do?
At the moment, I think that's where I'm looking at. The team is based there and everything, so it makes the most sense.
Okay. You were second in the 2023 Macau Grand Prix, which is one of my favorite races. What is your impression of this track compared to Monaco and Baku?
Of Macau compared to those tracks, you mean? Macau, I think it's just something else. I mean, I always dreamed of going there, and I wasn't able to when I was doing F3 due to COVID. So I wasn't supposed to do it, but then there was actually Colapinto got an injury, so I got the seat for free a week before the race. So I had to jump straight into it, and the track is super cool. I mean, Monaco and Baku is really cool tracks, but I think Macau is just different. I mean, it's so much more extreme, and I loved it. I mean, I didn't really expect much, not having been there and not even getting much simulator out of it, but just going there was an experience itself.
Now, this is very impressive in your career. 2021, you beat Jack Doohan to win the F3 championship. Did that put a smile on Dr. Marco's face, and what were the highs and lows of the season?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it was a good year for us. Overall, the pace was mega all season. I think for sure Spa in Belgium was a low point for us in the championship. Just in terms of pace, we struggled a bit. And I guess high point would be coming from 12th to win the race in Spielberg in Austria. Was
his hometown.
Huh?
His home country.
Yeah, that was a fun race, and overall the season was very enjoyable with Prema.
If I may ask, how did the Red Bull deal came about? Did you reach out to them or your management, or Dr. Marco called you from nowhere?
Back when I was 13 and 14, I was a CRG factory driver doing karting. And I guess I was doing decent, and we got the call up. And at that time, I got a free simulator session with them, and I guess did pretty well because the contract was thereafter. But I got contacted by them to see how I was doing, and then and that's sort of how the story began with them.
Okay. In 2019, you won the Italian F4 Championship, which has now become very important and popular. 12 victories, including last 5 in a row. What were the best races, wins or non-wins for you?
In that year?
Yeah, from that series.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great year with Van Amersfoort. In the first weekend, we had some issues and we had to start back off the grid. But for the rest of the season, we were more or less on it all year. And it's a great championship. I mean, it's got a high level, really cool international tracks as well that F1 goes to on a few of them. So it's a great championship in general.
Many moons ago, there was another gentleman from your country, Harold Heusman, who raced here, and he discovered Jensen Button also. Is he involved in guiding and supporting your career?
Yeah, he's my manager. So he's been my manager since I was 12, 13, back in karting. So it's been a great and long working together, as a team. So it's been good.
I think your season starts in St. Petersburg. I live in Tampa, which is close by. Will Harold Heusman be there?
I don't know yet. Maybe. It would be fun to get him over for the first race weekend, but we'll see how the schedule looks.
Okay. Now, how big is karting in Norway, and how many racing tracks you have there?
I mean, definitely Harold's track. My manager track is one of the bigger ones. Rudskogen Motor Center is the name.
How far is it from Oslo?
1.5 hours from Oslo, I would say, so not too far. Which is one of the better ones, I would say, in Scandinavia for sure. Karting in Norway, I mean, it's not like Italy, for example, where you have big teams and you're basically driving against, people doing the World Championships and stuff. it's more like, you come with your father, the father is a mechanic, and you're just enjoying it and having fun. But still, like, good level for sure, looking at the guys doing karting now. And it's become bigger and bigger in Norway, definitely in the few last years. So it's cool to see. I even went to a karting race last year and this year to just see. And it's always fun to sort of go back to the roots and we'll see where it started.
Last question. What's going on in Formula One between Max and Lando Norris and, all this passing on the outside? What's your take on this situation as a driver?
I mean, I think it's never easy also for the judges. They're trying to make the rules, as clear as possible. But somehow you're always, as a team and a driver, you're always playing around with it. And I think Max is one of the guys who plays around with it the most and is probably on the edge with it the most. And he's always been like that, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think going into the Mexican Grand Prix, I think he I can understand the decision the stewards made, and it had to be made an example as well. I think they're starting to go more and more on the edge with the rules, and at some point, they're going to step over them. So in the end, it is how it is. It's racing. It's always going to be like that, and I think in a high-performance sport.
They say tigers don't change their stripes, so I agree with you, this will continue. So who's going to get penalized more in Sao Paulo? Max or Lando?
Hopefully no one, but I would say I guess Lando is more on the clean side and fair side, but hopefully no one.
Okay. Finally, can you tell our listeners, we have listeners all over the world, about your social media, how they can follow your career?
You can follow me on Instagram with Dennis Hauger. Got TikTok, Snapchat, all of it. So yeah, just follow up to see some cool stuff next year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will see you in St.
Dennis, thanks for joining F1Weekly.com. Keep up the good work, everyone. Why don't we take a quick break? And we'll be back after these brief messages.
Hi, I'm Pato Award, and you are listening to F1 Weekly.
Welcome back to F1Weekly.com. Clark Rogers here, your host. And now, as we spin the globe and go around the world with Motorsports Mondial and the king, the Swami himself, Nasir Hamid.
Okay, greetings and racing regards for this edition of Motorsports Mondial. We are going to Thailand for MotoGP from the Buriram circuit. Winner was Italian Francesco Pecco Bagnaia for Ducati. Spanish riders completed the podium, Jorge Martin second and Dr. Marco's favorite Pedro Acosta third. Marc Marquez crashed out while fighting for the lead. Martin leads the championship with 453 points. Second with 436 points is Bagnaia. Marquez is third with 356 points. Next round is this weekend at Sepang Circuit in Kuala Lumpur. Now we move on to a couple of season finales at Parco Monza. Starting with Italian Formula 4, we have another chap from jolly old England with a very bright future. A few months ago we interviewed Freddie Slater, racing in Italian Formula 4 this year. Their final round was at Monza over the weekend. In this series, Ollie Behrman was champion in 2021 with 11 wins. In 2022, bar was raised when Antonelli was champion with 13 wins. Fast Freddy took his 15th win from 20 starts on Saturday. Sunday's final race was won by Australian Gianmarco Pradel. Slater was second. Slater is moving up to Formula Regional Europe by Alpine for next season. Interestingly, this young chap and his management have decided not to join any driver development program from Formula One teams. Slater is from same town as Shakespeare, Stratford-upon-Avon. No wonder he is writing such a success story in motor racing. And of course, we wish him all the best. Now we come to Formula Regional Europe by Alpine, also known as FRECA. Monza was their final round also. Championship has already been clinched by Ferrari Brazilian Junior Rafael Camara, and I think this kid is going all the way. Race 1 on Saturday was won by McLaren Junior Ugo Ugochukwu from New York, his first of the season. Next year he is moving up to Formula 3. And Ugo Ugochukwu came through the same karting time frame as Kimi Antonelli, and Kimi Antonelli has now made it to Formula 1 with the top team, and Ugo is still with McLaren, but when he goes to Formula 3 with his experience, he has to deliver the championship or win 5-6 races, otherwise I think he will be on slippery slope. And race 2 was won by Rafael Camara, who, as I mentioned, has already won the championship. Okay, sir, now we tour the USA. Indy NXT testing from Barber Motorsport Park. This one-day test was their final postseason test of the year. A few weeks ago, they were testing on the road version at Indianapolis. In that section, fastest driver was Penske-supported Miles Rowe. I took a big old jetliner on Sunday afternoon to Atlanta, shockingly, but I was not surprised on my return flight. But going out to Atlanta, Frontier Airlines left on time, which allowed me to watch the Mexican Grand Prix at the beautiful Atlanta Hartsfield Airport on my cell phone, of course. This was better than my previous experiences of watching motor racing on an airport shuttle bus, and definitely beats watching a race by the baggage carousel at Charles de Gaulle Airport some years ago. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get your motor racing fix. Anyway, thanks to Miss Taylor Bonds at the Barber Motorsports Park and the charming and ever so humble host of F1 Weekly, I was able to attend with media credentials. This is a beautiful track and a trip is highly recommended. And don't forget the Motorcycle Museum. They also have some Formula 1 cars. Just the Motorcycle Museum is worth a trip there by itself. Very happy to say I was able to interview 4 drivers. Miles Rowe is one of them. He will be in his second year in 2025. Another second-year driver interview coming your way is with Brazilian managed by Nicola Todd, Caio Collet. He is a very friendly chap and he was very kind to me, so I appreciate that. And so was the other drivers too. Kiwi Callum Head. His interview was arranged through his media rep, Tinaya, and she is based in Melbourne, Australia. And interestingly, some of our folks will remember a chap by the name of Steve Horn. He was head of True Sport Racing, which Bobby Rahal used to drive for, and won the 1986 Indy 500 with this team. And Steve Horn was the crew chief, and he is now involved in motorsports management. And Callum Hedge is managed by him. And Callum told me that Steve may be at the St. Petersburg IndyCar race. So I told him that if he's there, I would like to speak to him. And Callum said to me that if I want to do another interview with him in St. Petersburg, he said, just come over and I'll talk to you. So nice to have some friendly folks in the paddock. And I also had an interview, which of course we played today with F2 Experience, Dennis Hauger from Norway. He used to be in the Red Bull program. And very surprisingly, as I was walking into the trailer to have a chat with Caio, a very familiar face lady walked out, and it was Sophia Forsch, the German girl, and I had a brief chat with her. And she is hoping to race in the series in 2025. Now we go back to Formula 1, Spanish Matador and a charging bull. What else is new? Instead of chants of ole ole, there were chants of bravo bravo. Christian Horner has revealed Flavio Briatore approached him on behalf of his numero uno client. Who could that be? This is not the first time Machismo has tried to race for Red Bull. Some years ago, they met in the backseat of a rental car at Spa. Deal fell apart as the driver wanted a 1-year deal and Red Bull offered a 2-year deal. Machismo was looking for a 1-year stopgap because he had a long-term contract happening with the red car. Okay, sir, now I think what we should do is bring in Mr. Mika Häkkinen for a brief chat into the palatial studios. So here is Mika Häkkinen, and his son was racing, Hugo, and then he dropped out. Now his daughter Ella Häkkinen is in karting and is very competitive. So let's enjoy this brief chat with Mika Häkkinen, and we shall return with more Motorsports Mondial. Okay, folks, we're back with Mika Häkkinen. Mika, how are you, sir?
Excellent, thank you. It's great to be here in Austin.
Thank you. After winning 2 world championships, I am not sure how much you follow karting, but I have a feeling you can tell me something about kart racer Ella Häkkinen.
Oh, my daughter. Absolutely. I mean, it's, all the Formula One hype, what has happened in now last few years, including a Netflix, Drive to Survive, has increased massively young generations' interest for motor racing. Motor racing for girls, interest for boys. It just exploded, and one of young racing drivers who got really interested, of course, is Ella, and also my son Daniel, which is 10 years old. Ella is 13 years old. They are flat out excited and interested about this sport.
And Daddy fully behind them?
Naturally, yes. I mean, of course, I'm supporting. I'm a big sponsor, and of course, with my experience, I need to really carefully to analyze what is my position in terms of helping my kids to succeed in this sport. And it's not so easy, because motor racing, if you want to be a successful driver, if you want to develop becoming a good driver, it's a very disciplined, very hard journey. And to be a father, you don't want to. You can be very strict in terms of manners, what you are educating for your kids, and for also for the school journey, what they do. But when you go to the hobby side, which is karting, you really need to have to think twice how hard and what you are demanding your children to do. So it's quite a challenge for the dad to do it right.
Okay, your old team is back on top. That must make you very happy. In what area of the car do you think they have made the most improvement?
Formula One is a team, first of all, and I cannot look only one particular area which has moved the McLaren team where they are at the moment. But Formula One always has been aerodynamically very critical machine. So aerodynamics has to be built perfectly to able the car to go quick round the corners. And if the aerodynamics are not calculated correctly, the car never going to be correctly balanced around the corner, which means the driver cannot drive the car fast. And if you have a car like that, you cannot obviously get the good results. I think McLaren has been able to build the whole concept in a team in a way that every aspect has moved in the right direction constantly over the years.
Is Tuukka Taponen the next Mika Häkkinen who will go on to become world champion for Finlandia?
Tuukka Taponen is definitely in the Ferrari Academy. I feel that he's having a good management. He's having a good talent. This young man. I feel that he's presenting himself extremely in a good way for the public. So I am confident that way he's on the right track to move towards the Formula One.
Are you keeping an eye on another young Finnish talent, Robin Räikkönen? He may not say much, but that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that Kimi's son is also performing in a go-karting, and it is for the racing. When you have a racing driving background yourself, automatically the family do get interested, and your kids get interested. And I'm very happy that way he's in a motor racing sport also.
My time is coming up. Last question. You had a very good relationship with Ron Dennis. Are you still in touch with him?
No, not so much. Not so much. But I have a mega incredible years working together with him, and I don't think I never could be a 2 times world champion without his support and what he did in the McLaren team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate
Very
your
nice to
time.
see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
We'll catch up some other time when you have more time for me.
Mika, thanks for joining F1Weekly.com. Nasir?
Okay, Honda and Yuki get their wish. The Tokyo Terrier will hop on a Red Bull at Yas Marina in the testing there. If he does not pasteurize the car, I am sure he will be very quick. He just needs to slow down in his temper, and as much as he wants, as much as Honda wants, I don't think Red Bull will put him in a Red Bull seat for next season. Okay folks, now we move on to Historical Mondial. Today we look at the history and moments from Mexican Grand Prix. In the year BC, that is before commercialization, nations wishing to hold a Formula One championship race were required to hold a non-championship Grand Prix to see if they can manage the event. Hence there was a non-championship Moroccan Grand Prix in 1957 before it was included in the 1958 season as the final race near Casablanca. Hombres south of the border down Mexico way were also interested in holding a Formula One race. It started with a non-championship race in 1962 at the Magdalena Michuca circuit. This is a large park in Mexico City, kind of like Parco Monza, and the track is located inside and is now called Hermanos Rodriguez Autodromo. The winner was Jim Clark in 1962 in his Lotus. Also in this race was a driver from Shaker Heights, Cleveland, by the name of Roger Penske. Tragedy struck in practice when young local talent Ricardo Rodriguez crashed at the very fast final corner Peraltada and unfortunately died in the arms of his older brother Pedro. There were 6 American drivers in this race. 2 of them finished in the points. Richie Ginther was on the podium in 3rd, driving for BRM, and Dan Gurney was 6th, driving for Brabham. In the 1964 Mexican Grand Prix, Jim Clark took pole position, was dominating the race, and looked all set to take his 2nd successive championship. But when you are driving a Lotus, the car must not fall apart before taking the checkered flag. But that's what happened on the final lap. An oil leak developed with 2 laps to go, and the car stopped after crossing the start-finish line to start the final lap. So things were looking good for Graham Hill. He looked set to take his 2nd championship in 3 years. But Ferrari team requested Lorenzo Bandini to allow his teammate John Surtees to pass and take 2nd place, which he did, and Big John became the first man to win championship on 2 and 4 wheels. Dan Gurney from Newport Beach, California was the winner for Brabham. Now, interestingly, in 2007, Dan's son Alex won a Grand Prix race at the same track, and I remember Dan was very, very pleased about this, and of course, so was his son. The 1965 race in Mexico City saw 1, 2, 3 maiden wins. First win for the driver, Richie Ginther, first win for the constructor, Honda, and first win for tire supplier, which was Goodyear. John Surtees won the 1966 Mexican Grand Prix in a Maserati-powered Cooper. Richie Ginther in a Honda set the fastest lap. And interestingly, in 1966, there were only 9 championship races. In 1967, Jim Clark won the race from pole position and also set the fastest lap. No surprise here. In the 1968 Mexican Grand Prix, all drivers on the podium started their own team. Graham Hill was the winner, Bruce McLaren was 2nd, and Jackie Oliver 3rd. Oliver started the Arrows team after leaving Shadow team. and also took designer Tony Southgate and driver Riccardo Patrese with him. The 1969 race was a Kiwi double play. Denny Hall won the race, driving for his compadre Bruce McLaren. In 1970, there was chaos because of crowd control situation before the race. Swiss driver Clay Regazzoni started from pole position and finished second behind his teammate Jackie Ickx. Gerhard Berger gave Benetton their first victory on Pirelli tires in 1986 and powered by a BMW engine. And interestingly, Gerhard Berger also gave the final victory for Benetton team in Germany. So pretty interesting feat there. I remember reading a Gerhard Berger interview. He said that Keke Rosberg, I believe he was also on the podium in Mexico. Keke Rosberg said to him, enjoy as much as you can because these wins don't come often. And they become even less often when you team up with Ayrton Senna or a Michael Schumacher or a Max Verstappen, as is happening now. And now we come to the greatest moment of the Mexican Grand Prix. Il Leone passing Gerhard Berger in 1990. That pass on Berger's McLaren Honda by Mansell, going on the outside at over 150 miles per hour, and his Ferraris, absolutely the most daring and most impressive passes in Formula One that I can recall. And when we interviewed Nigel Mansell, I asked him if Berger said anything to him. And he said, yeah, Berger said he never thought anybody would be so stupid to go so fast on the outside. But our Nigel did it and pulled it off. Very impressive. Oh yes, and then there we have Sebastian Vettel losing his cool against Charlie Whiting during the 2000 Mexican Grand Prix. And Mr. Rogers, if you can find the audio clip, which I know is available on YouTube, it will be a nice insertion. Most of the bad words are bleeped out anyway.
Charlie said, yeah, oh. You know what? Here's the message for Charlie. Oh, honestly, oh.
And finally, before we go into Musical Mondial, Mr. Rogers, since you are the pastor of the F1 Weekly DNF Chapel, I have a confession to make. I have sinned. I gave into boogity temptations, and now I seek thou forgiveness. Please have mercy. This is what happened. Driving back from Barber Motorsports Park, I saw signs for Talladega Superspeedway. These days I have time on hand, so I took a tour of the speedway. It was very exciting. The place is huge and very impressive. The tour guide was knowledgeable and explained that the track was built with an infield road section, which is still there, and the plan was to bring everything, Formula One, IndyCar, sports car, and stock car racing. And according to him, it worked out well with only one series. Today, the track is owned by International Speedway Corporation, part of the Bill France family portfolio. He mentioned the road section is used by law enforcement for training and also by BMW and Mercedes for special events. And he showed us there is a small strip of Air Force landing strip that there was at that before this track was built, a U.S. Air Force base, so that landing strip is still there. So it's quite an impressive facility, very nicely maintained, and I would highly recommend a trip if you are passing through Talladega, Alabama. And there is also the Talladega National Park, I believe it is called, or Talladega National Forest. And one of these days, when I have more time on hand, I will check that out also. But wait, there's more. Next to the administration building, there is the International Hall of Fame, Motorsports Hall of Fame, International Motorsports Hall of Fame. The name is impressive, but the only international thing I saw there was a cap used by Jackie Stewart during his Formula One career in the 70s. The NASCAR display is impressive. It has the expected cars of Dale Earnhardt Sr. and car number 43 of King Richard Petty. Plus they have cars of Fireball Roberts. He was a big NASCAR star of the 60s, and as I read decades ago, lived up to his name by being burned to death in a crash at Charlotte, North Carolina Speedway in 1964, and he was from Daytona Beach area. There is the beautiful light blue Dodge Charger, the car I like very much. The Hooters car of Alan Kulwicki. Kulwicki was from Wisconsin and known as Polish Prince, and in those days I used to watch a lot of NASCAR races. He would take a victory lap in reverse, making right turns only. And unfortunately, he was killed in a plane crash in, I believe it was 1993. And he was also an owner driver, so did a lot of work on his own. And of course, there is the car of Ricky Bobby. For aviation enthusiasts, there is one plane also parked on the museum grounds. Upon inspection, I found out this was the plane flown to races by a local Alabama legend, Bobby Ellison. And this is very important. As with most NASCAR things, ticket prices for the museum and track tour are reasonable. I will highly recommend both for appreciation of NASCAR history and the magnificent facility. That is the Talladega Superspeedway, and they have newspaper clippings from 50, 60, 80 years before. Very, very nice. Mr. Rogers, you are into vintages. I think a photo of you in front of Skull Bandit car will be a steal. Or would you rather be leaning on the Hooters car?
Definitely the Hooters car. I'm a big Hooters supporter.
Folks, finally we come to Musical Mondial. The Gran Premio was in Mexico, so today's tune is from south of the border. It is the most covered song in Spanish language. Even the Beatles recorded this song. The song was written by a teenage Mexican girl by the name of Consuelo Velasquez. Thank you for listening, and please enjoy Andrea Bocelli's version of Besame Mucho. Adios.
Thank you. Good night.